Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going over the Draftkings and Fanduel picks for the Thursday night showdown between the New Orleans Saints and the Arizona Cardinals. We have a lot of guys injured for this game, a couple of pieces still up in the air. We still don't know who's going to start at quarterback for the Saints, but we'll work with what we have and we can kind of make predictions. So let's get started. As always, if you enjoy the content, appreciate the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to join us, visit the website. I've hit on the last two showdowns on DraftKings. Keep it going today and get FanDuel into the money tonight. Be nice. Twitter for updates at the DFS process. Probably will still have an NBA video out, even though there's only 2 games for Thursday. Keep an eye out for that. And try to get some prize picks video ins every now and then. But otherwise, I'm posting them on Twitter, so you can check them out there. Today, it's about a pretty low total for this game. You have 24.5 projected total for the Cardinals and 21.5. So you're looking at a 46-point total for this game, which is not too super high. It's in Arizona. The Cardinals, they've been so up and down this year. Murray hasn't really had that many great games. He's only had a couple of over 20 fantasy points. He's been under 20 and 3, over 20 and 3, and has been throwing a lot of interceptions. Hasn't really done great things on the ground. He does have a couple of rushing touchdowns, but some games he hasn't done. He's gotten under 30 yards in 4 of the first 6 games. I still like him a little bit. Saints defense is going to take a hit this week with Marshawn Lattimore being ruled out. So with Lattimore out, it's going to make it easier for Murray. And he also has his number one weapon back this week in DeAndre Hopkins after being suspended for the first 6 games. So that couldn't have come at a better time with Marquise Brown being potentially out for the season with his unfortunate injury. So you're going to be able to replace Brown with Hopkins. The price tag on Hopkins is 10-2. He's similar to Kamara, and he's 1,000 less than Murray. I probably like the top 2 guys a little bit more. On FanDuel, it's a different story with the price tag of Hopkins being super low. But Kamara has done well the last couple of starts. Both of those were with Andy Dalton. Dalton has been more willing to give some dump-off passes, and a couple of games with Winston. He was banged up, not 100%, but he's benefited with Dalton, and there's a chance that Dalton will start because he's been pretty productive, and he's been pretty productive in his games, and at least offensively putting up points, and he hasn't made a lot of mistakes like Winston was. He only has thrown 1 interception so far in his few starts. Winston is 96. He's thrown a couple. He's thrown more picks than touchdowns and fumble, but he's also been hurt for a large part of those games. I did start dealing with a fractured back, so we'll see. They're both very similar, so if you're going to play one and he doesn't start, you can go to the other one. Right now, big news is James Conner being questionable. If he's in, then you're obviously not going to play Benjamin. If he's out, I don't even know if you need to play Benjamin at that price tag. He's kind of priced up. It was disappointing last week. Maybe he bounces back, but he's priced probably where he should be. You have some better value down here. So once again, Michael Thomas is ruled out, as well as Jarvis Landry. So you're going to be looking at Chris Olave. He missed last week, but he hasn't missed a beat. Last 4 games, putting up double digits, and all of them had a 26-point game in there. And a lot of those were without Michael Thomas, and he's really shined without him and Landry for the last few weeks. Still love the price tag on him at that price at 74. It's pretty viable for a wide receiver 1. Ertz continues to get a lot of targets, one of the most heavily targeted tight ends through the first 6 games, and that's probably going to continue. He's gotten 10 or more targets in 4 of the last 5 games, hasn't dropped under 10 fantasy points, so he's been one of the most consistent tight ends. With Marquise Brown being out for probably the whole season, if not a large majority of it, you're going to have to continue to rely on Zach Ertz, even with the return of Hopkins. They don't have too many other guys to really make noise besides Rondale Moore, and they did acquire Robbie Anderson, but he's been basically a boomer bust, and he's pretty volatile with his personality, if you can say so. Speaking of Rondale Moore at 58, he looks awesome. That price tag, he's gotten 18 targets last couple of games. Hopkins coming back might take a little bit of a hit for him, but there's still a lot of targets to be had without Marquise Brown and that price tag for him. Definitely a staple in the flex. Potentially can look to him and captain build. If he does happen to get into the end zone, he will be a really, really good option there. And then with them being down a couple of wide receivers on the Saints, like Callaway will get some work. But they're probably going to give a little bit more work to Traquan Smith. He's priced more than Rondale Moore, so I'd rather get to Moore. I like the kickers in what should be kind of maybe a lower scoring. Both teams might struggle to score touchdowns. So like Prater looks good. He's been pretty good start. See if he's able to play this week. Questionable. He's missed the last couple. If not, or if you want to risk that, you can play Will Lutz on the other side. He has missed some field goals already this year, just 9 of 13. But he does have a very strong leg, and he's already made a 56 and a 60-yarder. And they're playing in Arizona, so you're not going to have to deal with any wind condition or anything like that playing in a dome. Green has kind of disappeared basically the whole season. Hasn't done anything really too crazy. He hasn't had more than 3 catches in any game and hasn't had more than 6.5 fantasy points. They're not that interested in him, even though he's cheap. We got a Rashad Shaheed got a touchdown carry last week. He only played 9 snaps. Not gonna chase that on a showdown, even though he probably would have been like $200 or $400 if he didn't score a touchdown last week. So he's kind of pricey, I'd say, at $2,000. And that's basically it for the rundown. Lots of players. We'll look at a couple of builds. Let's do one with Kyler Murray at captain. I do like him more than either one of the Saints quarterbacks, even though he's a lot more expensive. But with him, look to pair at least 1 or 2 of his pass catchers with maybe Zach Ertz at $7K. I like Rondale Moore a lot at $58. We're left with $6,800. Try putting in Chris Olave at $74. Taysom Hill, he typically does well on showdowns if you want to buy into that. But also they're going to be down Trotman in this one, so he might get some more work, more snaps, or they will probably turn to Trotman out. You'll see Jawan Johnson get more snaps at tight end, and see what his price tag is. He's $3,000. I mean, looks okay, but he possibly can get into the end zone. He did have 6 targets last week, and Trotman's been getting a good majority of the tight end snaps before. So a lot of that will go to Johnson. Start off with these 4, potentially throw in a kicker like Will Lutz at $4,000. We have $9K left now. If Connor plays, you can play him. And you got a 4-2 build with Olave and a kicker from the Saints side. Go a little bit cheaper. I do like potentially going with like a Rondale Moore at captain just to free up some more salary so we can get to Kyler Murray and get to Kamara, get to 2 superstars. You don't even mind if you want to try to get the Hopkins in here, or definitely play. If you make a lot of teams have Hopkins in some. We're left with 65. Throw in Chris Olave. Throw in like a Zach Ertz, and we have $5,100 left. Put in potentially Marquez Callaway. He's going to get some work with them being down once again. Their top 2 wide receivers, and he did have 7 targets last week. And he's a little bit of a volatile player, but just sometimes a guy that you need on showdowns. Or you can go with like Will Lutz and just keep some money on the table. You potentially could flip-flop and go with Ertz at captain. See if you still have, and then you can put in more into say $500. So this is something else that you can consider. I'll do one more let's go with Kamara at captain. Still look to get to Kyler Murray. Still like to get to Chris Olave. $5,100. Like the kicker, get to at least 1 a kicker, I'd say. Defenses, possibly the Cardinals defense, if it is Winston starting, just with the turnovers, and even Dalton can turn the ball over. But I do like the kickers more, and they're cheaper. Left with $57.50. So we'll be able to put in Rondale Moore for sure. Then possibly taking a shot on Robbie Anderson if you want to for tournaments. Probably something I won't do, though. In terms of the main plays and core plays, Rondale Moore at that price tag is going to be definitely in my lineup. We'll see if he ends up in the captain spot or not. But definitely him. Ertz, just with the amount of targets that he gets. Look to get to Kyler Murray just because not that many great pay-up options. I just have him, and then I'll try to force Kamara in there as well to get to at least 1 top-end Saints player that you can kind of count on. Like Ertz, potentially if you want to make it a 2-2, you can go with Olave instead. But these 4 look like really good plays. Olave is going to continue to get the targets without Thomas and has been utilized in red zone situations, even though he only has only 2 touchdowns on the season, but both of them did come in the last 2 games that he has played. So that's what I'm looking at for DraftKings. Let's go ahead and look at FanDuel. All right, on FanDuel, you have $17,000 Kyler Murray. So he is very expensive. I like you still have Kamara as your second most expensive guy, which makes sense. But we have Hopkins only 12.5. So on FanDuel, he'd be a much better play, somebody that I'm a lot more inclined to get to. At that price tag, he is a couple $1,000s underpriced. Chris Olave being $1,500 less, I prefer getting to Hopkins. And then even like Ertz is pretty cheap at 10K. Lutz is 95, but Rondale Moore, once again, is cheap on both sites. Then you can even take shots with like Traquan Smith at 8,000 potentially. But the tight end that will probably get more work this week is going to be $6,500 Juwan Johnson. So he looks a lot better, I'd say, on FanDuel, a lot easier to get to. Still affordable on DraftKings, but at $3,000, but just fits in terms of the lineups and fits with the other guys that you're looking, that most people will try to get into their lineups. So we have 16,000 now. Put in Kyler Murray, put in Alvin Kamara, and feel good about these plays for sure. If not, you can go with one of the quarterbacks here and then be able to upgrade maybe Rondale Moore to a Zach Ertz. See if there's anybody at $7,500 that's worth a flyer. Maybe Callaway. Instead of going Dalton, you can try to get to Chris Olave at 11.5 or 11,000. And now you have 4,000 left, so you can try to upgrade like Juwan Johnson to Taysom Hill or Zach Ertz, something like that. So a couple of different ways and approaches on this one, but the top three, these Cardinals will definitely be in there. Kyler Murray just at home, missing Lattimore, due for a big game. Not sure I really believe it, but the Saints defense hasn't been as good as they have been in years past, and they're missing one of their best players. Hopkins is way too cheap at 12.5, and then Rondale Moore is going to get the targets, and they're going to have to throw, especially if Connor is not able to play. If he does suit up, he's 12K. I'm not that interested in him. But that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. Best of luck, and I will see you all next time.